All right, everybody, welcome to volume number 3 of the crossover edition of Locked On Avalanche and Locked On Lightning. The series is now 3-1, obviously in favor of the Avalanche, but this thing is not over, and I can probably speak for Kyle when I say, until the Avalanche have 4 next to their name, then we'll celebrate because it's the Lightning. They have 2 championships. This thing is far from over. Denker's here, Kyle's here, crossover. Let's do this.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Game 5, 2 nights in Ball Arena, Denver, Colorado. The Colorado Avalanche can end the Stanley Cup final with a victory, but they have, of course, Tampa Bay Lightning in their way, so why not get another crossover in to talk about what happened in Game 4, look forward to Game 5, maybe beyond, who the heck knows, but thank you for tuning in, everybody, making this your first listen. That's always appreciated. I am Chris Maselli, along with my good friend, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. We are hosts of Locked On Avalanche, and then we have Adam Denker here as well. He is host of Locked On Lightning. Let's look back first before we look forward at that Game 4. Still just a fantastic game. That's like I said yesterday with Kyle, that was what you want to see from a Stanley Cup final standpoint. Great game, great back and forth. No one team really had 100% command. I think, feeling like an Avalanche fan, as the game went on, they kind of took control a little bit more than the Lightning did. But I want to hear from Adam first. What's the takeaway? We'll get to the whole too many men on the ice stuff in a minute here, but just a day removed from that game, how are Lightning fans feeling? What's on the mind?
I would have to say probably at least a lot of Lightning fans are genuinely optimistic. They still think the Lightning could pull it off. I mean, you have to somewhat be optimistic. Two-time defending Stanley Cup champions, show that they could do it. Show that they could pierce the armor of the Avalanche in Game 3. As for me personally, I don't know if maybe some of the people, whether it be on your side or my side, got a chance to catch the last episode. And one of your fans actually, funny enough, put it that there was some pain in my eyes after that.
Those were the needles that you stuck in there on your own.
Guys, it was, for me at least, after doing 3 of these, 3 years in a row, emotionally drained, physically drained. I was as tired as the Lightning were on the ice during that game, and I think that you're going to hear me say that a lot throughout this episode, because that's really what the name of the game was. I just think that the Lightning, what it comes down to it is that they ran into a team who is one of the best teams in the league. I said the best team that the Lightning have played in the last 3 years, whether it be in the playoffs or in the final. The Colorado Avalanche right now are the cream of the crop in terms of opponents that we have faced, and it's just a very lucky time in terms of amount of games played versus not as many, because Lightning, it's been very well documented how many games they have played, how many different roads they've had to travel the last couple of years, from going in the bubble to playing frequent schedules and just going through the rough road of repeating, and then once again this year, it's been tough on this team. And then you guys, and it's the East. And then on the other side of that, and I'm not saying that your road was any less easy to go through, but the Avalanche have only lost 3 games, and when you lose only 3 games in the span of a Stanley Cup playoff, that means you're way more rested. You guys had 8 days off, and I'm not using that as an excuse, but I think whether we look at this series, whether the Avalanche do indeed win on Friday and clinch, or if the Lightning do come back, I think we're going to look back on this series and see one team who is barely clinging on in terms of fatigue, and then another team who was very well rested and could do a lot of things, almost anything they wanted to out on the ice.
Well, that's the thing that we said at the beginning, Kyle, was, the Avalanche obviously have a smoother road to a cup final, and you were thinking it was going to be Calgary that they were going up against in the Western Conference Finals, and whoever came out of the East was going to be beat up a little bit. And in that aspect, however, I am still glad it's Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay is not going to use that excuse. Yeah. Tampa Bay's going for 3 in a row. Their season, they've been through all of this stuff before, and they're not. I haven't heard this at all. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that Tampa's like using it as an excuse, but no, Colorado used their rest to their advantage, and that whole rest versus rust thing doesn't apply to them. So, this was. I don't think that that's the reason why the Avalanche are up like they are. I just think they are just rolling right now, and Tampa is running into a team that's on it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you also like what you were mentioning, Adam, about how you felt? Do you kind of think this is a heavy as the head that wears the crown kind of scenario? Like the Lightning have played extended hockey 2 years in a row, going like this is their third. Do you not feel like the Lightning are kind of feeling like they're an older team, like they've been around the block a time or two? Do you not feel like going up against this Avalanche squad that they're kind of taking that breath and saying, oh, do we have it in us one more time? Looking at each other saying, can we do this?
I think they do. I think after game 3, there was definitely some soul searching to go on. I think we could look back at the comments if you really wanted to and see that nobody at all was happy about how that game turned out in game 2. And going to game 3, like I said before, they proved that they know how to get to the Avalanche. But at the same time, now that we saw what happened the other night, getting out to a 2-1 lead going into the third period, the game was right there for them. And it was only a matter of weathering the storm and being able to keep up with the Avalanche. And this team is confident. They know what they're capable of.
Sure.
And they've had to face some tough teams. Sweeping the President's Trophy winners isn't exactly an easy task. But I just think they've this time around, because I've spoken about it all season. I spoke about it in the couple episodes that we recorded, is that this team has a tendency to dig holes for themselves, whether it be in a game or sometimes in a series, which we saw in the Rangers series. And I think honestly this time, and I'm not saying that the series is over, but I think they've definitely dug themselves probably a very, very big hole to try and climb out of this time.
Well, Elliot Friedman loves to use the term you got Tampa'd. You know what I mean? Like, he uses it all the time. And for those that really know what he's talking about, it makes all the sense in the world. For this series, all he's saying is Tampa got Tampa'd. And it's, how the Avalanche are winning these games. And we'll kind of focus on the 2 close ones. The 2 blowouts are what they are. But the 2 overtime ones, that's how Tampa's been winning.
Yeah.
And now the script is getting flipped, and it's the Avs kind of, being down a goal, tying it, being down another goal, then tying it, then winning it in overtime. Like that's kind of like the Lightning MO, hang around, and then we have the stamina and capability to beat you. And I also want to point out quickly, you had said it in crossover number 1. You brought up the ice issue. If there was going to be an ice issue, I kind of
and lo and behold, Kadri that a little bit.
I did, man. I was like, that's not going to be anything. But Nazem Kadri tagged it as garbage. They both got to play on it. It's not like it's going to favor one team or the other. But hat tip to you, my friend, because you kind of saw that one coming, especially in Tampa. You didn't really think it was going to happen too much in Colorado, but you had said if we go back to Tampa, I'm kind of concerned about the ice.
Yeah, I think that I kind of figured that was going to happen, and it kind of brings back memories of 2004, because when Calgary and Tampa were playing in the finals, that's all Calgary was talking about throughout that series, about how bad the ice was down in Tampa. And that's what was talked about a lot in 2019 as possibly a contributing factor to them being one of the highest scoring teams. That teams weren't able to skate on that ice. Obviously, the technology is better now than it was in 2004. But I wouldn't be surprised, like on the other side of that, going into Colorado with this team that's so fatigued right now, because let's face it, it is what it is. I mean, Tampa, they have a tough task of not only trying to have this mind over matter mentality, but now you're going back into the mountains of Colorado, and you're going to have to deal with that altitude, which we saw them struggle with in the first two games. And I kind of want to throw something at you guys, because we were talking about it a little before. You guys were having the discussion prior to the game about Kemper versus Francois. How concerned were you guys about Kemper going into the game, and how short was the leash on Kemper if things kind of got out of hand early on?
Oh, about the size of my computer screen is how short that leash was. It was very short. And, the way that this game started,
Yeah,
with Tampa scoring in the first 30 something seconds, you'd be lying to yourself if you're an Avalanche fan saying like, oh man, like here we go. Even considering how the goal was scored, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It really wasn't his fault, but that's messing with his mind. So he really settled down, and I want Kyle to go because he's Team Frankie,
Yeah.
but he he'll give credit where credit is due, and you have to for the way that Kemper played.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, that goal that he let up was ugly, even though he didn't have a mask. Like, you were like, okay, here we go. This is where Frankie comes in, and like the Twitter space, they were erupting, saying, "Here we go, you get your chance. Here comes Frankie." But at the end of that first period, it was just 1-0, and they were getting
Yeah.
outshot 17-4. You could visually see Darcy getting comfortable and setting in, and like the defense starting to trust him a little bit, seeing that, hey, okay, he's got us. And you could see the whole game change because of his confidence and believing in himself. And at the end of the game, I was like, wow, Darcy really pulled it out for us. Like, that was a great performance from him.
Yeah.
Like, so I said it in the space, and I'll say it now. If he continues to play like that, we will not see Frankie, just like we won't see McDermott. So we could stop asking for him.
We'll see Frankie in October.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear from BetOnline, and then everybody's wanting to know, I'm sure, our thoughts on the John Cooper comments and the too many men on the ice. So we'll definitely get to that, and then of course look forward to Game 5, which is tonight. But first, BetOnline.net, your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Stanley Cup playoffs, Major League Baseball. And BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your scores, podcasts, news for this season. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. And I should have known beforehand. We should have put some money down on the Knicks to just do something stupid. I that should be a bet at betonline.net. Will the Knicks do something stupid? Yes or no? I mean, that's a home run bet if you want to put that down. But you can put it down next year too, because it's sure to happen year after
And the year after that. And the year after
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts. Too many men on the ice. It is one of those, there's no consistency to it. And I had put up on Twitter saying it's the NHL's version of holding in the NFL. You could call it all the time, and it's only really called when it is pretty egregious. Cooper, well, here you go. Kyle and I had to do something for Locked On today after the game was over, which wasn't immediate. It was maybe like 10-15 minutes after the game was over. I did that. That was like a 5-10 minute segment. Kyle and I record our show. We have some banter before and after we record the show. I edit all the show down. I put it up on YouTube. I put it up on, the audio channels, all that fun stuff. And then John Cooper says what he said. He didn't come out and say, it was too many men in the ice, but he said, just, when you see the tape, you'll know it. And then because that was it, people were then like scrambling, like, well, what's he talking about? And then they had to be like, oh, too many men on the ice. That's my issue, is this was nothing nobody was talking about until John Cooper went in front of the cameras and said, well, go look at it. And then people were like, well, I guess we should go look at it. If it was so egregious, people would be calling it out from the jump, and they weren't. Why? Because it's a speculative call. And if you rewind that game, go to the beginning, what happened on that last play probably happened 15, 20 times during the game. And what he did was he threw it out there. Now, people take it and run with it. And now this is what we have. And I think that's unfortunate because he did come out the next day and kind of backtrack a little bit. Didn't say anything to the effect of like, I don't know. It was weird what he said. It wasn't like I'm taking it back, but he did say like my emotions got the best of me.
He is a lawyer.
He is. Well, he used to be.
He used to be a lawyer. So
yeah, he was actually cast. He was cast for Liar Liar before Jim Carrey, but he gave up the role to become a coach. I mean, and I can understand the frustration from Lightning fans. I'm not trying to be like, well, it favored the Avalanche, so therefore, like, screw you guys. I just feel like that is a call and that is a play that doesn't get called a lot. And the way that game was going, the refs were calling nothing. They were letting so much stuff go. And if you're going to let cross checks and trips go, and then you call that stuff in overtime in the Stanley Cup final game, you're going to have an angry fan base. So, but I get the Lightning side of it too. What's Tampa Bay fans saying the day after?
They're frustrated, and understandably so. And there was the case. I'll tell you my side of it. As soon as I saw Kadri celebrating in the Avalanche run over to him, I turned off the television and went to go record my show. So, like you, once I was done recording the post game episode, I also saw what Cooper said, and this is actually the first time I'm going to address it. So, I saw your tweet. I believe it was either late last night or early this morning where you said there was a reason Cooper said that to get a rise out of people, so the refs will possibly approach Game 5 a certain way, maybe nitpick a little bit on the penalties. I could see the reasoning for that. I also do agree that maybe he got his emotions got the best of him. But I'm going to say this to Lightning fans, and they're definitely not going to like this. We were going to lose that game anyway. The way the Lightning were playing after the Hedman goal, and I said this to Kyle and Chris before the show, the Lightning had a good chance to put the game away after the Hedman goal. And I know that's a little crazy to say that because this is still only 12 minutes into the second period. You still have a whole nother game, a bunch of game left. But you could see at that point in time, the Avalanche were starting to gain momentum. The ice was starting to tip in favor of Colorado. And Lightning were gone in terms of energy levels. And if they could get another quick one at that point, then you would have felt a little better. Maybe there would have been some more momentum. But then you go into the third period and they come out flat. And then you could see this is almost like an absolute repeat of Game 2 going into it. It was actually a miracle that this game went into overtime. Because I really thought Colorado were going to come back and score. I mean, Vazzy was playing fantastic. I think that was the only reason why.
Dude, I got to say, like, they did. Like, in the third, the Lightning came a little bit flat. Avalanche came out flying.
Yeah.
But once the Avalanche got that goal, I thought the Lightning defense really tightened up and played very, very well. They didn't seem like they could get much going offensively.
No, and that was the problem. They were playing on their heels, though. They were defaulting to defensive hockey, which, let's face it, if you look at the last two Stanley Cup final opponents of the Lightning, those were both defensive-oriented teams for the most part, and look what happened. They barely made it 5 games. So, and look where we are now.
If I was like in your shoes, I probably would be phrasing it as to say, like, it doesn't surprise me the Avalanche came out on top because they were just rolling, especially in overtime. And in the world of hockey, it's like anything is possible. As the Avalanche were playing, anything, a quick turnover, and the Lightning go and they win this thing. But because the Avalanche were so dominant and then they got that goal, you're like, okay, like you kind of saw that coming, I think is how I would kind of think if I was a Lightning fan.
But I also look at it this way, Chris, and maybe Kyle, you'll agree with me, is that all it takes is one lucky bounce for the game-winning goal to be scored for the other team in that matter. But the Lightning could barely even get the puck past their own blue line coming out of their own zone. That's how tired they were. By the time they were able to gain any momentum, they were already getting picked apart at mid-ice by your forecheck. And you know, as great as Vasilevsky was playing at that point in time, because he wasn't going to be able, just the way this team was playing down the middle, especially. And you could see it with each sequence going on. McKinnon was starting to get more and more momentum down the ice. I mean, they showed a stat at one point. He was going 23 miles per hour at one point down the ice. Yeah. So, I mean, and they've done a pretty decent job of keeping him under wraps throughout the entire series. And you know, that, especially when the opposing team superstar are starting to get runs down the ice such as that, because the Lightning, I said it before the Stanley Cup final, I'm more scared of McDavid and the Oilers at that point because they got torched by McDavid. And McKinnon is not that different of a player in terms of speed and aggressiveness and puck handling. So, you know, it either could have happened on the Kadri goal, or it could have happened at some puck getting thrown out of the zone on a shot at the blue line if the Lightning ever got into the attacking zone. And then you have somebody trying to chase McKinnon down the ice.
And I have insert Spider-Man meme here. I have a point for both of you, so I'm not pointing at both. To Chris, when he's talking about Cooper, if the Avalanche would have ended up losing that game by 1, I do not believe Jared Bednar would come out complaining about that mask being removed from Darcy Kemper and play continuing. There would not be
I think
he would not be
right. So right,
yeah. And there was not a call on the ice, and it's not like you could go back and retroactively get in there and affect that game. Like, there was nothing to be achieved by Cooper's comments. So you wouldn't have Bednar reacting like Cooper did if the roles were reversed. And to Adam's point about the Lightning, they're sitting at 1 for 14 on the power play in the Stanley Cup. That's gone from a frustration to a burden at this point. And when you're sitting there and you can't get ozone time and you're on the man advantage and you can't convert, I think that doubles down on burning through your gas tank. You're not just physically exhausted, you feel like you can't do anything to get by them, and it's starting to weigh on you. And I definitely noticed that after that goal, like, the Avalanche were just living in the ozone, and it was very hard for Tampa to do anything. I wouldn't go as far to say Tampa would lose that game anyway, but the chances for Tampa were few and far between the deeper that game went on.
And you couple all of that, and if you look at the stats right now, Nikita Kucherov was a non-factor in this game. 2 shots on net. Was deferring to his teammates more time than he normally does. I've spoken about this with you guys before, how it really gets, you love to see him distribute the puck around because he draws so much attention. But there comes a time and place for that, to where he almost forgets that he also has this otherworldly scoring ability. And some of that could be attributed to his injury from the previous game, which we're not going to get into what happened at the end of that game, because what's done is done. It was the emotions of the game, of an ugly game. That is probably the most dangerous time for any player at that time and place. But he needs to be better in that situation. You know, as much as you love to see Victor Hedman and Anthony Cirelli getting involved, and God knows the Lightning need those guys to get involved, you need to have your big guys step up. Stamkos, who did a fantastic job on the defensive side of things, but we also, unfortunately, need him to step up and do some more things on the offensive side. And Kucherov as well, especially when you're missing Braden Point.
Yeah. He's a big loss. Have they said if he's playing in 5 or no?
Last night during the game, they said possibly 6, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in. But then again, I was going to bring this up on the show tomorrow before the game, but I look at it this way. You're kind of seeing a kind of situation as what we saw in the Rangers series. You elect to play Ryan Strowman, then he's out for the rest of the game, and then you're left with one less forward. If you start Point, that's great. But A, if he's ineffective on the ice, it's just another body. And B, if he has to come out, then you're down another forward. I think, and I don't know what you guys have seen, but I think that Riley Nash has played fantastic in this series from what the role he has been thrown into. Obviously, he's not here to fill Braden Point's spot in terms of production, but sliding in and out of the lineup as often as he has, you got to give props to him. And I think he does a fantastic job. And listen, it is a must-win game, of course. But if Braden Point can't be Braden Point, then I would just leave him out of the lineup.
We'll see. All right, let's look ahead to Game 5. What the Avalanche need to do, what the Lightning need to do. What's going on in the circles of Tampa Bay? Kyle and I were saying, does either team really need to do these massive changes? I mean, that was a game that I feel like could have gone either way. Yeah, we talked about how the Avalanche were maybe a little bit in more control. But I don't think the changes from the Lightning side need to be so massive and a complete overhaul like the 7-0 game. What are they doing? I mean, is it roster? Is it injuries that are kind of hurting them right now, or is there something specific that they need to change?
I think what you might see in this game, especially if you see it early on, really the Lightning played a very good game, like I said, up until the mid-second period, even before the Hedman goal. You started to see the tide shift, which was why that Hedman goal was, for at least me, came completely out of nowhere. The way he raced up the ice and highlight reel goal right there. I think what we're going to see out of Cooper, especially early on, I think we're going to see some short shifts. I think he's going to really try to manage guys, because you're starting to see the fatigue. Like I said at the top of the show, you're going to hear that word quite a bit from me in this in this episode. So I think we're going to see some short shifts, and I think we're going to see him sort of manage guys over the course of the game. Playing Kucherov early a lot. In the other series, at going into the Eastern Conference Final, Kucherov was almost averaging close to over 28 minutes a game, and you're going to start to see guys kind of maybe have short shifts and then start to stretch them out in the third period.
So almost like preparing for the end of the game, especially in the altitude, just hang around as best you can. Through the first sec, don't let the Avalanche, get 2, 3, 4 goals and just hang around, and then use your big guns a little bit heavier in the later periods. I can see that happening.
And the one thing that really I thought was a difference maker from the Lightning, and I spoke about on the post-game show, was that when the Lightning do positive things early on to kind of make adjustments to teams, they have a knack for getting away from that as the game progresses. And the one thing that they did really well in this game that I thought really gave them a good chance early on and kind of slow your boys down was the way they cleared the puck. Normally we see teams obviously off the glass, along the boards, on the side of the ice, but you saw them flipping it up the ice towards Kemper, kind of forcing the Avalanche to stop, see what's coming up ice, and then reorganize themselves and go. And now you're talking about 5 seconds right there of the Avalanche, kind of almost as if you're sort of running out the clock in a way in a hockey, but at the same time, just, it's kind of like holding the ball in basketball as well, until 3 seconds left on the shot clock, which I thought was very good, and allowed the Lightning to also organize themselves and kind of get somewhat of a semi-breather.
Well, what's up with their power play?
Yeah.
What is wrong with their power play?
The problem is that they're not aggressive enough, and it goes back to the one guy who is really the lifeblood of this power play, and that's Kucherov. Not enough shots on net. Very timid. There was a couple of times during the game last night where he had more than enough space to rip one off and had a good angle, and he would either elect to pass or go and deeper to the goal line and then kind of try to make these weird angle shots where you're basically, it's the flip of a coin at that time. You're not relying too much on your skill at that point. And also that the Lightning have not really done a good job of cycling the puck and setting themselves up for shots. Even last night, I'm sure you guys noticed it, Stamkos didn't really have enough chances in the circle. That's his bread and butter. I didn't really see a lot of that. And that's what I'm talking about when I say this team gets away from the things that work. They last night were letting the flow of the game get to them instead of just going out there and creating their own momentum.
Real quick, Kyle, Kemper sometimes struggles with rebound control. So you can throw shots on, like, maybe the Lightning, how Kyle and I say all the time, like sometimes the Avalanche try to get a little bit too cute. I think a lot of teams do this for the power play. They just try to get a little bit too cute, find that perfect shot rather than just throwing a shot on, maybe getting a rebound. The Lightning can do that against Darcy Kemper. He's known to give up some juicy rebounds, and kind of, your guys that are doing the dirty work for the Lightning could clean those up.
Yeah.
But you're right. It doesn't seem like they're really pulling the trigger on any of these power plays.
Yeah, and it's not good. I don't want to call it like bad and atrocious, but it's to a level like you're giving up shorthanded goals. And
Yeah.
like this is the Stanley Cup. Like that that should not be happening.
And
So
on the other side of that, they go on. They're a team that draws too many penalties as it is, and when you're taking penalties like that against a team like the Avalanche, who have scored more than half of their goals in this series on the power play, that's not a recipe for winning.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Well, we got in this thing with predictions, so I'll save Mr. Denker for last. I'll start with Shaggy. What do you think this is going to be? The Avalanche wrap this thing up on home ice?
I've said since the first crossover, this was going to be a 5-game series, and they dropped game 3. I'm sticking to my guns. This is going to be a 5-1 Avalanche win.
5-1. Wow. Okay. I should have asked you that too. I mean, is Vasilevsky getting pulled, or is he? No, I'm kidding.
I think Elliott's playing game 5.
Yeah, Brian Elliott. There we go.
I in the beginning when we did our picks before the series started, I hedged my bets and said 5 or 7, just going off of I just wanted the Avalanche to win it on home ice.
Yeah.
I genuinely didn't think we'd be in this situation. 100% didn't feel like it would be a possibility for them to end this thing in game 5. The fact that they're there and they're playing well. They had that one bad game, and this team has done that all year long. When they do have a bad game, they've turned it around instantly. So it doesn't surprise me that they played the way that they did in game 4. And my God, like, this is set up. You couldn't have it set up more perfectly if you're the Avalanche. So yeah, I gotta pick them to win this thing. And I think because Kemper had such a good game, I think he carries that over. I think he's still prone to give up the easy goal, like we kind of saw with Hedman. I thought that's one they should have had. So I don't think he's going to be able to shut out the Lightning. They're too good of a team. But I feel like they are going to ride the wave of this home ice arena, and they'll get a few early ones and continue on. And I agree with Kyle. I think they can get 5, but I think they give up 3. And I really just want it to be a comfortable win. I don't want this thing to where, Tampa's got the goalie pulled and our hearts are beating out of our chest. I want a Stanley Cup victory to clinch it, to just be, I can enjoy the last 3 minutes because they're up by like 2 or 3 goals. That's a tough ask, but I do. So I'm going to say 5-3 on this thing. All right, Denker, is this going back to Tampa?
Yeah, this is going back to Tampa, and I was saving this for a solo show, but I was going to do, but I was going to read this off as my cold open. So I'm gonna start off my statement, my prediction by reading you guys a old Irish proverb. A good beginning is half the work, but getting things started is the hardest part. And the Lightning have struggled with getting things started throughout this entire season, this entire playoff run. But when they do get things started, good things happen. Now, obviously, fatigue, like I said, for if you're playing a drinking game at home, take another shot. But I think this Tampa team still has a ton of fight in them. But it all comes down to winning the first 5. And when I said to you guys going into game 3, was that this team needed to play perfect hockey. Well, this team is going to have to play complete perfect hockey to throw this series back to Tampa. And that's why, with the level of experience and what I said before about Cooper possibly managing shorter shifts early on, and you saw a lot of great things from Vasilevsky in this game. So I'm going 2-0 shutout for Vasilevsky.
Ooh, okay.
Sending the series back to Tampa to die another day.
He's capable. That's the thing. He is capable. So, all right, we shall see. I know Kyle and I will be doing a show. I'm sure you will be as well. No weekends off when it's a Stanley Cup final. So we'll be back tomorrow. Kyle and I will be. And if the Avalanche do finish this thing off, I think we should even, we'll do our own show, and then we should still do like whenever this thing ends, we will do one final kind of look back as a whole with another final crossover with Adam, whenever that may be. Right. All right. So thank you for tuning in, everybody, making it your first listen. It's always appreciated. You can follow Kyle and I over at LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram, and on YouTube, just search for Locked On Avalanche. Where can they find Mr. Denker, Mr. Mixtape, and the Lightning Show?
Give us a follow on our social media pages at LO_Lightning on Twitter, as well as Locked On_Lightning on Instagram. Give me a follow on Twitter at DenkyDank, DENKYD8NK. You can find the show on YouTube at Locked On Lightning. Please go ahead and subscribe. We are 2 away from 300 subscribers.
Go for it.
Yeah, guys are doing great.
And Avs fans, because we've had some Avs fans go over.
Avs fans, listen, and I have to say, the Avs fans, you guys have really been mingling well with my listeners. Not as nice as the Ranger fans have, but
they're brutal.
Yeah, brutal. Just keep it civil. Regardless of who wins. In game 5, keep it civil. Continue to compliment about how much I look like Nikita Kucherov, and he
has a much more scruffy beard than you do.
I'm a lot more. I have a lot more enthusiasm in my face.
Well, he's a hockey player. A hockey player, they don't do much for interviews.
But hopefully the next time you guys see me on YouTube or listen to my voice on any audio platform, we'll be talking about the Lightning pushing the series to 6. And
we shall see. Yeah. We shall see. All right, everybody, enjoy the game. It's bound to be another great one, and we'll all be on our respective shows tomorrow to discuss it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.